To understand modern global politics, you must understand China's biggest geographic obsession, the first island chain. This is a continuous line of islands stretching from Japan through Taiwan down to the Philippines and Borneo. For China, which has grown into an economic and military superpower, this chain is not just a collection of tropical destinations. It is a literal cage designed by geography and reinforced by American military alliances to trap China inside its own coastal waters. China relies completely on ocean trade to import energy and export its manufactured goods to the rest of the world. However, almost every single ship leaving a Chinese port must pass through narrow straits within this island chain, which are controlled by nations allied with the United States. If a conflict ever breaks out, the U.S. Navy and its allies could easily close these gates, completely choking China's economy. This is the exact reason why Beijing is so obsessed with Taiwan. Taking control of Taiwan would instantly break this cage, giving China direct, unhindered access to the deep waters of the Pacific Ocean and changing global power dynamics forever. There is a famous saying in Europe, God created the earth, but the Dutch created the Netherlands. This isn't just a proud boast. It is a literal, geographical fact. Nearly 1/3 of this prosperous European nation lies entirely below sea level. And if humanity stopped fighting the water for even a single day, a massive portion of the country would simply vanish beneath the North Sea. For centuries, the Dutch have been playing a high-stakes game of survival against nature, turning a flooded swamp into one of the richest economic zones on the planet. Instead of running away from the encroaching ocean, the Dutch invented a brilliant system of polders, massive dikes, and iconic windmills to pump water out of flooded areas and seal off the sea. Over hundreds of years, they literally reclaimed over 6,000 square miles of land directly from the ocean floor, transforming saltwater bays into fertile agricultural fields and thriving modern cities. Today, their mega engineering marvel, the Delta Works, a massive network of storm surge barriers, stands as a shield against rising global sea levels, proving that with enough mindful innovation, a nation can rewrite its own map. Africa is undeniably the wealthiest continent on Earth when it comes to natural resources. It holds over 90% of the world's chromium, 60% of its cobalt, vast reserves of gold, diamonds, and the essential minerals needed to power every single smartphone and electric vehicle on the planet. Yet, despite sitting on a gold mine worth trillions of dollars, Africa remains home to some of the poorest populations in human history. This heartbreaking paradox is driven by a deep geographical and historical curse known as the resource trap. When European colonial powers drew the borders of modern African nations in the late 19th century, they did not care about geography, local tribes, or natural economic regions. They drew straight lines on a map purely to extract wealth as fast as possible. This left behind modern countries that are geographically fragmented, often landlocked, and cursed with artificial borders that force rival groups into internal conflict over resource control. Instead of developing diverse economies, many nations became dependent on exporting raw materials to foreign corporations, creating a system where Africa's immense wealth fuels the technology of the West, while leaving the continent itself strategically exploited and economically trapped. Imagine being a country with a booming economy, vast mineral wealth, and thousands of trade products, but you have no access to the ocean to ship them. This is the tragic reality of Bolivia, a nation nestled deep in the heart of South America. Bolivia was not always landlocked. It once possessed a beautiful line-by-mile coastline along the Pacific Ocean. However, in Ibatillo, a devastating conflict known as the War of the Pacific changed everything. When neighboring Chile seized Bolivia's entire coastline, trapping the nation behind the massive walls of the Andes Mountains forever. Losing its ocean access was a catastrophic geopolitical blow that still haunts Bolivia today. Without a port, Bolivia must pay heavy taxes and rely on the political mercy of neighboring countries just to export its goods, which severely stunts its economic growth every single year. The trauma is so deep that the Bolivian military still maintains a fully functioning navy complete with warships, admirals, and sailors that trains daily on an inland lake, waiting for the day they can reclaim their passage to the sea. It is a powerful example of how losing a single strip of land can paralyze a nation's destiny. For over a century, in Arlene RE, a single massive cargo ship called the Ever, given lost control and became wedged sideways in a narrow canal in Egypt. For 6 days, this accident blocked the Suez Canal, halting over $9 billion worth of global trade every single day, causing massive supply chain delays across Europe and Asia. This historic crisis exposed a terrifying geopolitical truth. The entire modern global economy is heavily dependent on a single, man-made ditch that is only 120 miles long and a few hundred meters wide. Constructed in Ibatillo, the Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea directly to the Red Sea, allowing ships to bypass the massive journey around the entire continent of Africa, cutting travel time by up to 2 weeks. Today, roughly 5% of all global trade and millions of barrels of oil pass through this narrow Egyptian waterway every day. However, its strategic location makes it a prime target for geopolitical tension, pirate attacks, and military conflicts. If a major war or another massive accident permanently closes this ditch, global energy prices would instantly skyrocket. Factory assembly lines would freeze worldwide, and the global economy would plunge into immediate chaos.